Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss for Eagle Communications. Welcome to this special version of our town. If you look and you're a faithful watcher, you will see the same three guys in the same three seats we were in, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe a little more.
Been longer than that.
Longer than that, okay. Yeah. And the same topic. We're here to talk about the Justice Center that's being proposed as a county venture, and as I understand, the city might be in that game, and we'll talk about that. But the fact of the matter is, it's a big question, it's a big concern, and you have some answers for us, and we have some conversation to have about a Justice Center here in Dickinson County. So we have the county administrator, Brad, sitting over there. We have the sheriff sitting here, Mr. Hoffman, and we are going to have a chat. So good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Looking mighty spiffy for a couple of county employees. I'm telling y'all, blue and black and ready to roll. That's good. Okay, so since we last met, Brad, you've got a plan and a book, a draft and a drawing, a cost, a review, revisions. So get us up to speed on where we are with the simple view of that.
Well, since we last met, we have finalized some plans. A few things have changed. We have had a public petition come in that will require an election to approve the bonds for the financing of this project. That election will be a mail ballot on August 22nd. It will be the election day. And we've also had discussions with the city of Abilene, and as recent as this week, their city commission has approved a memorandum of understanding that approves their participation in the program with their police department as well. So there's been some really big milestones in the project.
Now that I've heard you talk a little bit and thought about the dates, it's been 2 months since I sat in here as a utility looking with your architect just to be talking about stuff or more. Mm-hmm. So our conversation was a while back. This isn't a Johnny-come-lately issue.
No.
Discussion about this courthouse that we're sitting in is not a Johnny-come-lately issue.
It's not.
We've been reading articles in a newspaper for a long time about sewer gas in the Register of Deeds office and various and sundry other places. It's a 60-year-old building. Things take maintenance. But I think the focus that I hear on the streets is really about Justice Center. So let's start there and let the sheriff repeat what he said in every co-op, I think, in Dickinson County as he traveled around talking to people, being transparent about why we need a jail and then how a jail is a justice center. So why do we need a jail?
Well, you already referred to the age. You know, that's a lot of it, 60-year-old facility. And, you know, if you look at it from the aspect of, with the exception of the day it was completed, from that point on, you know, it just gets a day older. So it's never new again. But, you know, size, safety, functionality, flow, all of those things, you know, that you've probably heard us say before, you know, the manner in which inmates are housed, the ability to, or currently the inability to separate and segregate effectively different offenders, puts the inmates at risk, puts the staff at risk. And anytime you talk about moving inmates or flow of inmates, you know, outside of the jail facility, down the hallways to and from court, et cetera, those are some of your most risky times when you start moving people around. And the way it's set up now, obviously parading them down the public hallway is certainly less than desirable.
I think my communication about this event, really, about the old jail, isn't about the doors that don't close or don't lock properly. You can't really tell if they're locked properly until you try them, and all the don't open properly sometimes, and all of that stuff. Yeah, those are really important, but that's not what gets my attention, okay? Mm-hmm. Two things get my attention, and they're really societal. We are not the same place as we were 60 years ago.
Right.
That's what gets my attention.
Right.
It's not the same job.
Right.
Jailer, law enforcement, criminal, they're not the same job description as they were 60 years ago.
Yeah, I think things have definitely changed. I think the expectation from the public is much greater. The expectation to keep people safe and to do things, in a professional manner. I think that expectation has gotten much higher. And kind of what you were alluding to is this goes, way above cosmetic. You might walk in there and look at it and go, doesn't look great, but it doesn't look horrible.
Right.
But it's really what you don't see is what is the most alarming.
The population's changed, the criminal population, the jail population, and people we incarcerate has changed. And I would draw people as a citizen and also as a volunteer reserve for you for a long time now. I will tell a quick story. So I was in St. Francis, Kansas Monday night at a city council meeting, and the chief of police report came up, and he was excited to tell that they were part of the law enforcement group that was pursuing the shooter who had shot at a trooper on I-70, went through northwest Kansas, ended up being captured in Lexington, Nebraska. Found out later, after the feds all descended on northwest Kansas and Nebraska, that it was highly likely to be the AK-47 shooter wanted across the nation. So what I'm pointing out is I-70 has been here a long time. So even though we're Abilene, Kansas, in the heart of America, and we have great law enforcement in a beautiful little town, I-70 still goes right through here all the time. You can't really control who gets off and who stays for a while or what they do while they're here. I think what we can see, though, Gareth, and you see it better, you and your officers see it, and the Abilene PD sees it, it's the interaction between the public, criminal public, and law enforcement has changed drastically in 60 years. It's not the same.
No, absolutely it's changed. You can blame maybe some of it on social media. Obviously, law enforcement over the last several years has really been kind of under the microscope, with events that have been going on across the world, and that adds to it. Dickinson County is still, in the scheme of things, relatively safe community. We're fortunate, we're glad, but something I actually had never really thought about, but came to light going through this process, with this facility, is every person that's in the state penitentiary started somewhere in a county jail.
Right.
And it kind of took me a minute to think about that and thought, wow, that's exactly right. So we do get those people. Obviously, we don't get them every day, but we do get violent offenders. We do get people in there that are a danger to the community. So,
I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think we also get a different classification of the addicted than we used to 60 years ago. I'm using those 2 points. The 60 years ago, we got probably alcohol addiction, tobacco addiction, and maybe addiction to crime, but we didn't have meth. We didn't have many heroin addicts drifting by Dickinson County jails, and the various and sundry, including prescription drug, opioids, and all that stuff. The life of crime has just changed around chemicals. And no matter what the public's view of the chemical issue is, you have to keep those people safe in your jail and separated from us, the public, and victims. And that's what this issue is about. When you have a victim walking down the hallway, you have a perpetrator in handcuffs there in the hallway. You have all that line of things going on, and the togetherness of that is not something that's good for the overall climate of justice in our city.
Right. Yeah, definitely a change in, drug offenses, drug offenders. In my opinion, much higher volume. Of course, a lot of times attached to that are other crimes. And, something that has changed significantly as well is inmates with mental issues, mental illness, people that probably really don't belong in a jail, that end up in a jail
Right.
because there's just nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else for those individuals to go, and trying to be, staffed appropriately to deal with that, and trying to find the resources necessary to deal with that has become a huge challenge for all small jails, local jails across the state.
One other change, we're kind of focusing on the need, then I'm going to ask you for the proposed solution. But one more change, I think, from 60 years ago to today is female population. Before the camera came on, you said, was it 6 and 9? You have a 6-bed facility and a 9 females that night?
Yeah, I think it's 6 and 8. I think we
Okay.
have 8 now. Yeah, I actually started, when I started 25 years ago, I started in the jail, worked up there for just a short period of time, which I'm happy about. But I don't remember having a female in jail. You might get one in, but they'd bond out, and they wouldn't stay. So now, knowing that we have anywhere between 6 and 9 at a time is kind of different. But again, a lot of times that's, it goes back to your drug abuse, chemical abuse.
Yeah.
So.
You said something to me one time, I don't remember whether it was on camera or in private, and I thought it was extraordinary. And we were talking about females in jails. And you used that opportunity to say, they're innocent until proven guilty. And whatever their circumstances are that brought them here, they deserve to be taken care of well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's often overlooked, certainly by the public. A lot of times you hear the thing, well, feed them a cold ham sandwich and lock them up and throw a chain on the door and make them paint the curbs. And, I understand where some of that is generated, but we forget that those people are innocent until proven guilty. And we forget that, that's somebody's mother, father, brother, sister, son, or daughter, and they deserve to be treated that way.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking the time again to tell the story. It's not the first time you've told it, but we know in our business that you have to repeat stories, and we're repeating it today. So thanks for that. Brad, as county administrator, you have, I'll bet, been in every meeting about the building, the solution, and all of the work that's been done. So give us the simplest version you can of what we're trying to build as a county and why it's a good idea.
We're trying to build a facility that is capable and facilitates what we need to do, that Gareth and his staff can provide a safe environment for the inmates. It's a frugal approach. It's not overwhelming. The building itself will be a steel building with sheetrock walls inside. It's not a concrete high-dollar bricks and mortar building. It's what we can afford, and it'll do what we need to do. And I know some of the comments that have been made are that we're building an extravagant building, the Taj Mahal. It's absolutely not that. And one of the reasons the architect was selected is because he has a long, vast history of building what's needed for a community instead of what they can sell. And so this building this addition would include a new jail and courtrooms attached and offices for the district court, hence the term Justice Center. And that's essentially it. And it would be a facility where all business can be transacted with the jail, whether it's visitation, going to and from court, bringing the inmates in from the outside, or the prisoners as they're arrested, all within a secure facility, within a secure envelope, so we don't jeopardize the public or we minimize that risk. So.
Okay. And once those activities are out of this building, the traditional old courthouse, there's some work to be done in here.
There is. We have a number of issues in this courthouse, like any building that's 61 years old, that need to be renovated. The building itself is very solid. It's a good structure. There's no use in throwing that out. So we want to utilize that benefit, do some renovation inside with the plumbing, the heating, the air conditioning, and electrical, and provide an environment where this building can continue to provide the benefits to the citizens for another 50 or 60 years.
Okay. You know, in the topics around capital investments in infrastructure, both schools and counties and cities, you hear the same comments. Well, what about, you know, maintenance, deferred maintenance? Have we been putting maintenance off? The story about the Register of Deeds office, I think, is pretty significant. The sewer gas thing, right? You have a picture over there that I saw earlier of the pipe that was leaking. That pipe was in a wall. You don't maintain something inside a wall until it's a problem that you have to knock a wall down to fix.
True.
And that describes plumbing and HVAC generally. There's maybe some few places where new drop ceiling is in, but when it was built, we didn't put plumbing and we didn't put HVAC in what the modern construction drop ceiling is. They were in hard walls or hard structure.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One more thing I want you to speak to, and Gareth chime in anytime he wants. The last time we filmed, I'm pretty sure we didn't have the city involved. We were talking about it, but we didn't have a memorandum of understanding saying the city wants in. I consider that a huge win for the taxpayers of Dickinson County and the city of Abilene. A huge win. Two ways. One, hard dollars and cents. It can't be cheaper to build two of anything than it is to build one right. It just can't be. I've always believed that, and I think you guys and your committees and all the work have proved that. The second thing is a little simpler, but maybe even more important. A spirit of cooperation that it will take to work in this Justice Center and to put it together and get a bond issue passed and all of that. The spirit of cooperation is good for us. Mm-hmm. Every resident in the county life will be enhanced. Our future taxes will be enhanced by cooperation between the city and county. That's a good thing. What do you think?
Absolutely. You know, early on this project, we knew that we would have some extra space on the second floor once we moved the existing jail out into the new facility, and it just makes sense to utilize that space for another venture that works along with Gareth and his staff and the county attorney's office. That would be the police department. Everybody that lives in Abilene knows they're in dire need of new facilities. Their building, I think, was built in 1912. And this is a solution that we've offered to them. Just earlier this week, the City Commission has signed a memorandum of understanding agreeing to move forward with us. That alone would save the city of Abilene well over $1 million, almost $2 million from other ventures doing a new police department. That's substantial. Yeah. And hopefully it's just the first step that we can use to move forward on other things. Now, I will say that, you know, that's not to say we've never worked together before. We work together every day on projects, whether it's road projects that we provide things to them or they provide things to us. We do that with all the cities, the school districts, and in the spirit of cooperation and saving the taxpayers money and being more efficient. But this one's big. I mean, this is real big. So.
As you well know, I used to travel around the county circle selling hardware and software. When counties and cities really sit down and sign documents to work together in some specific way, has always been a big deal in Kansas, and it's always a decision point. And we're here. This is something official. This is something where shared financial interest is being put in a document of contract. And that's a big shift in local government.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What haven't we said today that you want to say to the public?
For me, I'd just like to say that, you know, we're not here, you know, at this place because it's necessarily where we want to be. I think everybody, you know, Commission, Brad, myself, everybody that's been involved would say, you know, we'd prefer we didn't have this problem. We'd prefer we didn't have this headache. Unfortunately, you know, this is what it's come to. This is where we've ended up. And, You know, I always try to remind people that I'm a taxpayer as well. I've been born and raised here my entire life, raising my own family here. I don't want to pay any more taxes than anybody else, but we think it's the direction that we have to go. We think it's important, and we're doing everything we can to, you know, like Brad said, to be frugal and not waste money.
Okay. Personal comment that I can't resist. First time I met you, you were a redhead, and you were a sergeant, and I was in the car with you, and we captured a runaway steer. You got a little gray coming in there on the sides, man.
I didn't have time to go shave it. That's why I shave it short. Then it keeps the gray down.
It's all relevant. You said when you started here, you started in the jail. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it gets grayer every day.
Okay, because on the camera, you're sitting next to me. They say, there's a young guy sitting next to an old guy. I did that for a reason. I want people to understand you have been here 25 years.
Yeah.
Time has moved, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And we have to act. So we got about a minute and a half, Brad. I remember both of you sitting here on the first interview, and I'm the one who brought up, I believe it ought to go to a vote. And I used something you'd said to me when you ran for sheriff the first time to illustrate that point, and you both went back. And I've had people come to me on the street who watched that interview, and they said, did I hear them wrong, or did both of those guys seem to support this going to a vote? I said, no, that's the way I took it. As long as I've known them, and that's since 1998, they've always been that sort of a person who would say, it's your money, you get to decide. This is not about going to a vote, is it? This is about, it's the right thing to do, and the people get a chance to raise their hand. But we're sure trying to give them a chance to understand how important it is.
That's true, Dennis. It's, of course, Gareth and I wouldn't be in this business if we didn't believe in the people and their voice. And that's who we serve. We've been fortunate enough to serve the citizens of the county in our careers for a long time. And it is the taxpayers and the county's residents' jail. This courthouse is theirs. We're just lucky enough to manage it for them and take care of it. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't bring these issues up and bring this forth, because, as Gareth said earlier, we need to treat those inmates with dignity, innocent, guilty, or otherwise. They're in our care. If they get injured because we can't separate them or segregate them in the jail, we as taxpayers pay those health bills. We pay those medical bills. We pay those expenses. And it goes farther than that. But yeah, we believe in that. The election's a good thing. It'll give people the opportunity to vote. But it's something that we're going to have to do sooner or later, one way or the other.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we've burned all the time that camera will let us have today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always being willing just to sit down and talk about important things. And so I know people will appreciate hearing from you. So Brad Hammond over there, Gareth Hoffman here, and I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications, and we all three wish you a terrific day.